for a lot of these people, they have in the last year alone have doubled, tripled, or even 5x'd their collections while working less hours per week and seeing less people to make it easy on their body, to make it easy on their family, to give them hope and a future. Welcome. We are focused here on Dominate Healthcare. We've got a new podcast called Dominate Healthcare. Got a seminar coming up December 8th and 9th in Orlando called Dominate, because as I keep sort of falling into this rhyme, which is that we can't just participate, we have to dominate. Too much is at stake, too much chaos, too much crisis, too much misinformation. If we don't get involved and dominate the process, we could sit back all we want and say things like, I'm not going to participate, I'm not going to comply. But if somebody doesn't move the needle in the right direction, then try getting on an airplane, try sending your kids to school, all the things that people will do to us if they're not informed. What's really positive, maybe the most positive thing I've seen, not maybe, definitely the most positive thing I've seen in my 30 years in this profession, longer if you consider the time I was in chiropractic school, is that it used to just be chiropractors. So you look at all the mass of quote unquote anti-vaxxers out there, that didn't exist. You go back 10, 20, 30 years, that didn't exist. All you had were chiropractors and maybe Barbelo Fisher with the NVIC that were out there trying to tell people the truth about health and what the drug companies were doing, in particular related to vaccination. And thank God for us, because we pushed and pushed and pushed, educated, spoke to our patients, passed things out. We went out in the community and we spoke. We sought to dominate. We took responsibility. And as a result, look where the world is at right now. It's a little bit better. And that's all because of you and me and the rest of our profession. So good job on that. So speaking of dominate, we're going to focus specifically on taking your next step in making the 150 per week practice the new $1 million a year practice. And so regardless of where your volume's at, if you're 50 a week or you're 500, as we look at a 150 per week segment of that practice, that should be making $1 million a year. So we're going to use an actual case study on this video with the whole idea that you will work less, see less people, but yet triple your income and have this very focused, fired up staff. So it's a real case study with somebody who has now found themselves able to work much less than they had to a year ago. They're actually seeing less people by design, just it's easier on their body, on their family, on their staff, but yet the income is tripled and the staff is just fired up and committed. So I want to take you through those steps. Now, here's where that person was at. Now, what's interesting is that as I describe this case study, I'm not using a name. There's at least 10 clients that I have right now that are going to think I'm talking about them. That's how common this problem is. And this particular person, when we started coaching them, was stressed, a tired parent with small children, and an unhappy spouse at home. Somebody was at home, not happy with how things were going with the family. So how do we begin to make the shift? So first of all, when we look at the clinic, in this case, with our study, the staff kept quitting. So they kept losing staff member after staff member. Now, when you're stressed, so this is an important point, when you're stressed, when you're off your game, when you're not focused on leadership and training and supporting and building up and inspiring the staff, you'll often think, well, the staff understands. I'm busy. It's my business. I've got problems at home. I've got stress. I've got, a family member that died. My dog died. Something's going on that the staff should understand. Your staff doesn't understand. Your staff doesn't care about you. Other than me, Dr. Rob, and Jesus, not many people really care about how it's going for you. People are concerned about them. And you're making your staff's life harder. And in their mind, while they may even care, they might care that you're struggling. in their mind, there's a better job out there with a stronger leader who's going to help support them in their career and their future. So that's the reality of it. We've got to become better as leaders. So I want to walk through, and there's a lot of steps here, but we're going to walk through right now our 3 steps. And we talk about, for example, the Dominate program, the Dominate seminar coming up in Orlando again on December 8th and 9th. You've got to be there. We're going to walk through steps like these. We're going to bring in doctors that have been through these steps to make a 150-week clinic the new $1 million per year practice. That's what you're going to see at Dominate. And I want to walk you through 3 critical steps here that we use with our doctors. And in this case study we're going through right now on getting this started. So first of all, you've got to look at who you're hiring or have hired right now, because to see 150 a week and make $1 million a year out of it, anybody working for you has to own their department and be generating income. We're looking for anybody to generate income worth 5 times, at a minimum 3 times, but ideally 5 times their salary. So if I got 2 employees seeing 150 a week, they need to be producing income. That's the way it's supposed to work. Each person really has a P&L on them, a profit and loss statement on you as an employee. So who have I hired? Sort of the old classic, well, I've got somebody I've paid that's, inexperienced, young, and I'm paying them a modest wage, $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour, and that's it. They're not going to last very long. They're not going to take responsibility. They're not going to take 150 a week and make that $1 million a year. Just not going to happen. So when I look at who I've got, what are their skill sets? I need them with better skill sets than I have. There's certain things that I don't want to become good at. There are certain things that I need them to master. I want to be able to focus on my patients, be inspiring, motivating, focused on their care, their referrals, my promotion in and out of the clinic. I need to do my thing. So I need them to own. I need staff that owns their position and runs this clinic. So that's a certain set of skills. That is a lifestyle that supports this. So once again, getting back to that young person. And listen, once in a while, a young person works out, but normally, most of the time, they end up getting married or getting a boyfriend or moving on with a different career path or going back to school or getting pregnant, different things that young people do as they grow. They're not thinking about my business. This is not necessarily what they're thinking about their future or as their career. So does their lifestyle suit my organization? Another example of that with lifestyle, I had a doctor recently who really needed staff. This is where a lot of us find ourselves. So he justified the fact that he would hire somebody who has 2 small children because, hey, that there's parents around, there's grandparents around that can help with the children. As usually happens, this went fine for a couple of weeks, but eventually most moms will figure out, hey, I don't want my kids growing up without me. There's issues or crises or needs at home or that the kids have. And so that lifestyle is not conducive to somebody who's going to help me grow my clinic, run my clinic. And finally, personality style. So when we do a personality profile, as an example, I like to use the DISC. With my master's in psychology, we studied a lot of sort of what are the best and most important personality types. DISC is a highly valuable tool we can use when we're talking about business. And so a high D personality, somebody who wants to run their own business, become an entrepreneur, that's not a great hire. I want you to be about my business, my clinic, not about your business and your own personal future. So I have a client who hired a high D who had his own business and it failed. And so he was just looking for a job. But I said, listen, very quickly, he's going to want to see how your job becomes his job. And if those 2 things don't match, he's going to quit. He literally lasted 3 days. So my top clients who know who to hire actually will use the term, hey, Dr. Ben, as they send me a resume, I believe this person passes the Dr. Ben test, because it only passes the Dr. Ben test if it's the perfect employee. I'm not looking for anything other than the perfect employee, because I need somebody who's going to run your clinic. We want a staff-driven business. If we're going to have a 150 a week clinic, make $1 million a year, and give you a lot of your life back, or even just allow you to scale it into even more. So step one is we need the people. Step two, relative to those people, is that there's what big companies do is create in a manual. So there's an employee manual and actually have the rules of engagement, how we interact with each other. So as an example, one thing that you'll find in a normal business, a bigger business where there's a true HR and an employee manual, is something called no triangulation. So what does that mean? So if the two staff are up there together and they're unhappy with the doctor, they're not allowed to talk bad about the doctor without the doctor present. That's called triangulation. They can't go to the doctor and complain about the other staff member. That's called triangulation. It's how teams get destroyed. So we have rules and we have trainings within our processes with our staff to discuss how we build up each other as a team, how we thrive as a team, including a rule about triangulation. So there's a lot of different rules we have to teach relative to engagement and how we work with each other. The other piece about this staff, again, this staff-driven clinic, is that real companies, ones with a future, ones that grow without the CEO or the owner having to work more and more hours. Realistically speaking, as you grow and become more successful, you're supposed to have less responsibility and more time. Most of us think about that in the exact opposite way. If we get busier and more successful, I'll see my family less. I'll have more stress and less time. That's not how it's supposed to work. So the way to have it work like it should, real companies have clear roles and clear goals for the staff, as well as how they're bonused. So when this is working well, like in our case study we're doing right now, in the case of this doctor, the staff has now gotten their areas, their departments up to a really amazing level to where they are making more money, making more profit. And since there's profit sharing, there's clear profit sharing, each of these two team members is making between $800 and $1,000 a month in bonuses. And the reason this is working well is that when the doctor isn't on point or the doctor isn't focused, the staff picks up the ball and runs because they don't want to see the practice falter at all because it impacts their income. When the doctor actually recently suggested hiring a third person, the staff said, no way. They were concerned it might dip into their profit sharing, which it shouldn't, by the way. Like there's a way to make sure that doesn't happen. But they were concerned about that. So they said, let's start with us just working harder. And we're even willing to work a few more extra hours to just keep growing this thing because we like the check we're getting. You know, they're already making over $20 an hour plus an $800 to $1,000 a month on top of that for a bonus. They're committed to this clinic and its success. It's a beautiful place to find yourself. Step number two. So step one was the staff. Step number two is you got to radically change the care plan. So we can't see 150 a week and make that $1 million a year and have the same exact care plan. It just wouldn't possibly work. So one of the things we talk about, it's really a very revolutionary way to take a typical care plan and be able to increase what you make per visit. We call the cost per visit average, the CPA, cost per visit average, or CPVA. And so what that is looks like this. So in a corrective care office, there are stations. We call this the station approach. Again, it's truly revolutionary. So if you go to 3 or 4 or 5 stations, so maybe you're wobbling and tractioning, you get adjusted. So there's 3 stations. Now you go vibe and head weights. That's 4, arguably 5 stations. So we've gone through these 4 or 5 stations. That's about $150 to $250 per visit value. So when you put your care plan together, it's really easy to raise the value of a visit. I've had a lot of people who initially say, when we talk about increasing the cost per visit average in a care plan, well, I can't charge $100 for an adjustment. Well, you're not. The adjustment is 1/5 of the stations these people go to. And as a result, we raise the per visit average, even though maybe the adjustment cost is the same or just slightly higher. So maybe it's a $200 visit, but in my care plan, it comes out to about $125 a visit. What's great about that too is when we get into maintenance, it's still a $200, $250 visit. So instead of these cheap maintenance plans that really are an anchor, they drag your per visit averages for collections down. we don't have to let it drop so far. We could say, okay, if you're on a care plan, instead of it being 250, it's 80 or 100 or 60 or 70. So you can at least still keep that maintenance visit high, and they're still getting a huge deal in doing it. So that's the second step. The staff step is first. The second step are these radical changes in the care plans, this revolution that we call the station approach. The final piece is that we've got to have what we call the businesses within the business, something we're going to really go over heavily at Dominate. We're going to look at the different services or even really true businesses that work in addition or in parallel, or what we also call a vertical inside the clinic. So we're making whatever we're making with the new care plans at 150 a week. So that's gone up. But then we've got a vertical business, something else. So this could be laser, decompression. This could be regenerative medicine. This could be functional medicine. This could be soft wave. There's something else that's going on that not only raises the per visit average. So again, you could easily make $1 million a year at 150 a week. But what's really cool is that staff we were talking about a minute ago, they can run it for you. So even when you're not there, they're still there making you money. You could take a week, 2 weeks, a month off, and they're still cranking away at regenerative medicine, functional medicine, decompression, laser, soft wave, whatever it is that you're doing, they're still cranking away at it. So you could have $1 million going on while you're not there. In this case study, and again, there's 10 people that still think this is what's happened. And it's, again, we're going to cover this at Dominate in Orlando. You'll hear from a lot of these people I'm talking about, all 10 of them, in fact, on the Dominate podcast. For a lot of these people, they have, in the last year alone, have doubled, tripled, or even 5x'd their collections while working less hours per week and seeing less people to make it easy on their body, to make it easy on their family, to give them hope and a future. So step into this. We're here to help you do it. We got to dominate, not participate. Bless you, and remember who you are.